All right, well, good morning, everyone. I want to thank you all for coming, taking the time this morning to come to our town hall as we discuss our plan to reopen school in the fall. Clearly, for all of us, this is uncharted territory, and and as we know, that territory is changing literally daily. The conditions around us and the mandates coming at us are different on almost a daily basis. But for everybody in the room today, I know that the goal is the same, that we want to open up school for our kids and offer an outstanding educational program and also keep everyone safe. And that is a task that is not an easy one. It's a task and a job and a really a process that is there's no easy answers, and there's probably no answer that is right for everyone because we all have different uh, perspectives and sensibilities, and we're all in different situations. The As many of you probably know, last week administration presented to the board a plan for reopening, and we'll talk about that plan a little bit here briefly. That Since that time, July 13th is when we presented that. We have received considerable feedback, both in support and in concern. We've received updated guidance and mandates from the governor's office, from the Pennsylvania Department of Health, our teachers unions, both at the state level and the local level, have weighed in with their thoughts and ideas. And really, suffice it to say, as I alluded to earlier, the playing field has changed. It just almost daily it changes. But what is clear to all of us, and to me in particular, is that there is no perfect solution as to how to reopen schools. We know for certain that this is complicated, it is emotional, it is personal, and quite frankly, it is sometimes political. And we are doing our best to navigate that field, again, to provide a great program for our kids and to keep everyone safe, our students and our staff. And things are moving quickly. We presented our initial plan on July 13th. During the course of this week, we're conducting 7 town hall meetings. Tomorrow, we will have a survey that goes out to parents, a follow-up survey to the one we sent previously. We have a task force that is meeting on Friday to discuss the plans that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. And in addition to that feedback that we're receiving through these town halls and also through the survey, that task force includes healthcare professionals, it includes parents, teachers, administrators, school board members. We'll all work to try and find and discuss what is our best path forward. The board will meet again on October or July 29th, and then ultimately the board will vote on the plan for reopening school in the fall. That vote will take place on August 3rd. So we are really moving hard and fast because August 31st, the first day of school, is coming quickly. We're going to give a presentation here for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then we'll allow for Q&A, and we'll answer your questions, and we'll get through as many of the questions that you ask as possible. The team here in front of us is, I give everyone here, the administrators here, a lot of credit, doing some fantastic work. I appreciate the tireless effort that's going into putting forth our best path forward and finding that best path. And so I'd like them to introduce themselves so you know who's in the room with us. I'll turn over to Mr. John Nolan, our Assistant Superintendent.
Good morning. I'm John Nolan, the Assistant Superintendent. Welcome. We're so glad to have such a great turnout this morning and look forward to sharing our plans and also to hear and do our best to answer your questions.
Morning, everyone. Tim Hoffman, Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
Hello, everyone. Leah Ryder, Director of Pupil Services.
Good morning, Justin Webb, Director of Technology.
Good morning, James Weitzel, Supervisor of Buildings and Grounds. Happy to be here.
Good morning, Krista Fazio, Communications Coordinator.
Good morning and welcome. Amy Jenkins, Assistant Principal and Supervisor of Online Learning.
Good morning, Cliff Beaver, Principal, Pocopson Elementary.
Good morning, everyone. Steve Dissinger, Principal at the Charles F. Patton Middle School.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Silva, and I'm the Assistant Principal at Unionville High School.
Good morning, I'm Bob Cochran. I'm the Director of Business and Operations.
Good morning, my name is Pat Crater. I am the Supervisor of Athletics.
Good morning, I'm Jeff Helrung. I'm the School Board President and the parent of 2 Unionville High School graduates.
Mr. Sorty, do you want to jump in?
Yes, I popped in late. Sorry. Good morning. Marco Sorty, Transportation Supervisor.
And we also have 3 other school board members in the room, including joining Mr. Helrung, our school board president. Maybe we start with Dr. Aki.
Hi, good morning. I am mom of 3 kids. 2 have graduated Unionville and 1 is currently in the Patton School. So I joined the board 6 months ago.
Good morning. I'm Victoria Barata. I'm a parent of 5 high school students, 1 to graduate on Saturday, and I'm a school board member. Thanks for having me.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Erin Talbert. I'm a member of your school board and also mother to a middle schooler and a high schooler. Thank you all for joining us today.
And thank you, everyone. And it occurs to me as I listen to introductions, I didn't introduce myself. So I'm John Sandville. I'm the superintendent of schools here at Unionville Chadds Ford, and also thrilled to be here. And with that, Mr. Nolan, I will turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sandville, and welcome again, everyone. And just to go over the agenda briefly, we are going to discuss some of the health and safety mandates that are present in our state. And as Dr. Sandville mentioned, there are some new ones that we will highlight. We'll talk about some mitigation measures we're going to take, and then briefly go over the plan that we proposed and discussed at the July 13th board meeting last week. And then we have 3 other plans to discuss and go over today, an ABCDEF plan, a scaffolded plan, and then remote learning, if that's if schools are closed. There'll be a quick summary at the end of all that, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. Ms. Fazio, do you want to talk a little bit about Q&A?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Nolan. So at any time during this presentation, you may submit a question through the chat feature on Zoom. And the chat feature is located at the bottom toolbar of your Zoom window. I will be collecting the questions for our team to answer, and questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. We will make every effort to answer as many as we can before the conclusion of the town hall. Please note, even if we don't get to your question, we are recording it in our notes so that we can use it to guide us in the future, use it for FAQs, and also let us know where we can provide more clarity moving forward.
So some of the key health and safety mandates that it's important that we all realize are there from our State Department of Health, from the governor's office, and also from Chester County Health Department. One, and certainly we're all talking about this, all students must wear a face covering that covers their nose and mouth inside the school and while outside when physical distancing, social distancing is not feasible. Face coverings also must be worn by staff and all visitors, just like the students. A few other things, we do need to create one-way traffic patterns in the hallways and stairs to make sure that we can avoid a lot of students going different directions and not being able to social distance. There's going to be an extensive protocol to clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces and objects within the school and on school buses, at least daily, including door handles, sink handles, and drinking fountains. With the governor's new mandate that came out last week, we now need to maintain groups at 25 or smaller. So we will need to eat in the classrooms, and we are looking at needing to reduce some class sizes when we go over that number. That does include not only the students, but of course the adults in the room. And then another really important thing is bus drivers and passengers must wear face coverings as well while on the bus. A sample of some of the new health and safety mandates that came out July 16th last week from the Pennsylvania Departments of Health and Education out of the governor's office. 6 feet of social distancing for students to students, staff to students, staff to staff is being emphasized by the governor now. There was no mention of 3 feet. That has been in the Chester County Health Department guidance, but it's not in the state guidance. And so we really are looking at that 6 feet as the goal. Minimize the number of people on the bus at one time. There was no mention of 2 to a seat, which is in the Chester County Health Department guidance. So we're really looking at trying to reduce that to possibly 1 to a seat. A desk must be disinfected after each use. That was new in this guidance, and that will require a lot of planning to make sure that happens at the middle school and high school. Students cannot be present when materials are cleaned, including desk. And then also we need to eliminate the use of lockers. Some of the key safety mandates that came out just on 7/16 that are a little different from what we've been told before. And as Dr. Sanville said, it's a changing playing field. We may get new mandates today. It's really hard to know. We're keeping an eye on it. We're reading everything we can, calling the state, calling our colleagues to try to stay on top of this, but it is a changing playing field.
So in the event the district and the community decides that we will return to some form of in-person instruction in our buildings, we will be prepared to put multiple levels of mitigation measures and protections in place. The first and one of the most important things is good hand hygiene. And we'll be plastering the building with public service announcement posters on the importance of clean hands. In order to support that, we'll be installing additional hand sanitizer dispensers in all the classrooms, and we'll be installing them on the buses as well. We'll be adding additional soap and paper towel dispensers at sinks that don't normally have them. Think of your science rooms and your FCS rooms, just to provide more places where staff and students can wash their hands. And we'll be setting up bulk hand sanitizer dispensers at every entrance to the building, as well as the cafeterias. We've already started the procurement process, and to date we've secured almost 300 additional hand sanitizer dispensers, 100 additional soap and paper towel dispensers, and over 1,300 gallons of hand sanitizer. The next level of mitigation, and we talked a little bit about masks and the 6 foot of social distancing, and we'll be supplementing that with additional PPE. That's personal protective equipment. We'll have additional disposable masks for staff and students. We'll have face shields for our staff, gloves for our nursing and custodial staff, disinfecting wipes, and plexiglass shields at countertops, cafeteria tables, the nurse's office, and small group tables. To date, we've secured over 15,000 disposable masks, 700 face shields, 1,500 N95 masks for our nursing staff, 3,000 gloves, and over 3,000 containers of disinfecting wipes. Next, we'll be modifying some of our building operations. First, we'll ensure that all of our HVAC equipment is operating per its design. We'll then be increasing the amount of outside or fresh air that we bring into these spaces. We'll also be increasing the run times of our equipment. One example will be setting our bathroom exhaust fans to run 24/7. We're also currently reviewing some portable air cleaning devices for some of the high-risk areas, such as the nurse's office and the isolation rooms. The last level of mitigation involves adjustments to our custodial staffing. We'll shift some of our second shift to first shift so that we have more staff to perform routine disinfecting of high-touch areas and restrooms throughout the day. Then we'll look to increase our evening custodial hours so that we can still do the routine cleaning and disinfecting overnight. And lastly, we'll be doing some updated training to make sure all of our staff know what to clean, how often to clean it, and how to properly disinfect. Mr. Nolan, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Weissel. So this was the plan that we proposed July 13th, all students in with an online option, extensive mitigation protocols, online option, our teachers, our curriculum. We were looking at 3 feet of social distancing and 2 students to a seat on the bus. The plan, as I mentioned, was proposed on July 13th. We have received a lot of feedback from families and teachers and staff about the plan. And the reality is, with Governor Wolf's new mandate of July 16, 2020, the brick and mortar part of this plan as it stands is problematic. This plan won't be able to provide a 6 foot of social distancing in brick and mortar. We're not going to go in great detail about this plan today. It is linked to this slide. You probably already have received a PDF in regards to this presentation today. That's a live link. You'll be able to review the presentation that was made July 13th about this plan and all the details. Certainly you can ask questions about it. But now we are going to move on and discuss the 3 additional plans.
So for the next 3 plans that we're going to talk about and discuss, they all have an online component as part of the plan. For the 3 plans that we will discuss today, they're different than what we discussed on July 13th. The next 3 plans will all include our teachers, our curriculum, with devices distributed from the district, and will be flexible based on the days that a student can come into school. And Mr. Hoffman will get more into that flexibility piece when he talks about the scheduling. If you want a true cyber school experience, UCFVA will be an option. So UCFVA is still an option if you want that true cyber school experience with asynchronous lessons. With this option, it will be the Chester County Intermediate teachers and the Chester County Intermediate Unit curriculum and working together with BVA. So with UCFVA, it's their teachers, their curriculum, and that includes special education. So with special education, it would be the Chester County Intermediate Unit special education teachers and their service providers as well. So again, the next 3 plans will have an online component, but UCF will still be there if you want that true cyber school experience.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. The first option we'd like to present today is what we call the ABCDEF model, or for short, a 2 out of 6 model, 2 days out of 6 brick and mortar. It would provide synchronous live instruction for all students utilizing our educational technology. This plan would continue to run on a 6-day cycle, as our current cycle does. Specifically, students would be scheduled for brick and mortar for 2 consecutive days out of a 6-day cycle. The other 4 consecutive days, students would be participating remotely. Students may choose to participate remotely during all days of the cycle. In essence, this plan would allow for 2 days of in-person learning for anyone, all live synchronous learning for anyone, and the ability to seamlessly flex back and forth between those 2 options. All students will be assigned to either A, B, C, D, or EF days in this model by Alpha family. Some students will be assigned everyday status depending on educational need, whether it's special education or English language learner status. Mr. Webb, would you please pull up the sample schedule? So this is just a visual of what the school calendar could look like. I know it's a little small, but Basically the idea is, if you look at the colors, the Monday being the first day of school, August 31st, AB students would be in brick and mortar in this plan. CD students and EF students would be remote learning in their live synchronous instruction into that particular classroom that they're assigned. Same thing for Tuesday. Wednesday it shifts. CD students would come to their class to be in person, while AB and EF students are remote learning into that class. So again, in these models, there are basically a third of the class is there in person, and the other 2/3 of the class are there live synchronously in that same class via technology, participating and remoting in. So also a student schedule here, a sample student high school schedule. You can see you have first period through ninth period there, the courses that the student is taking, and the remote learning time for the student who is going to be joining virtually to log in to the start of each of their classes. And you can see the times there associated. So that's just a sample of what a student schedule could look like in the A, B, C, D, E, F model. Thank you, Mr. Webb. So there are a number of pros to the plan. It's easier for teachers to instructionally support an in-person synchronous model than trying to support and move instruction forward for in-person, synchronous, and asynchronous models at the same time. This could be a consistent model employed from kindergarten through 12th grade and keeps our current 6-day cycle. This is important because it maintains consistency with our quarter, trimester, and semester classes, our school calendar dates, and reduces changes to IEPs, 504s, regarding the delivery of related services based on cycle days. This model also significantly reduces the number of students in the building each day and provides 6 feet of social distancing in the classroom. It also keeps smaller groups of students cohorted together or bubbled by family and smaller groups for better or easier contact tracing and less possible spread. This option also meets the needs of high-risk students and students that may become ill by providing flexibility to flex to another in-person or virtual opportunity. So in essence, you could flex to all virtual or could flex to in-person on the days that you're assigned. Finally, this plan would significantly reduce the numbers of students riding the bus each day and provide potential Y-care options for our elementary students if our buildings are open. Next slide, please. Thank you. Like all plans that you're going to hear about today, there are cons. Some of the cons here are it's potentially difficult for working families, this particular plan. It could provide challenges for childcare. Also, there are members of our community that would like more in-person time than 2 out of 6. And there are also those in our community who would want only remote learning. Many teachers are uncomfortable with any in-person plan, as they would be exposed to all students over a 6-day cycle. They're also concerned that they may potentially expose all in-person student groups themselves. Further, teaching while maintaining 6 feet of social distance as recommended by PDE would be very challenging in person. As with any new plan, there will be time constraints to make adjustments. Teachers will need additional training and collaboration time to effectively implement this model. It will also require adjustments to the class time allocated to special areas classes, especially at elementary and middle school levels like art, music, PE, and health. We would ask that you be patient with our teachers as they learn to teach in a completely different way. Finally, there could be concerns regarding the amount of screen time for students each day that are attending remotely. And there could be additional costs in regards to instructional technology and devices for some of our instructional spaces. This time I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ryder to talk a little bit about special education in this model.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. I'd like to start off by saying that under each of the models we'll be discussing today, the Unionville-Chadds Ford School District team is committed to partnering with our families and our communities to ensure an appropriate delivery of services to our students. In this particular model, the A, B, C, D, E, F plan, we anticipate that students will receive supports and services both in school buildings and delivered remotely. That means that IEP teams will need to reconvene as needed to address students' needs across these diverse learning environments. We expect that for most students, goals and related services will remain the same as currently indicated in their IEPs. However, as with all things, IEP teams can meet to discuss and make alternative decisions. We may need to note, however, where the delivery of these supports and services will occur, again, either in the home remotely or in the school building. The biggest area of IEPs that teams will need to discuss will be the specially designed instruction, because some of the supports that are provided in this section are only appropriate in the brick and mortar building. They may only be appropriate in the remote learning environments, or they may need to be provided across both, and this needs to be clearly identified within IEPs. I'm going to turn it over so you can learn more about our scaffolded plan.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to share a plan that we also believe is plausible that we're calling the scaffolded plan. The scaffolded plan, at the heart of it, the idea is that all students in K-5 would be scheduled for in-person learning each and every day, while our secondary students, 6 through 12, would be scheduled for remote learning. This would have our 4th and 5th graders attending Patton Middle, and as Dr. Jenkins mentioned earlier, the option for online instruction would still exist. Let me share some more details of the plan on the next slide. So if you see our chart here, the idea would be that our K-3 students would attend their home school. This would allow us to spread children around and achieve that 6 feet of needed physical distancing in the classroom. 4th and 5th grade students would attend at Patton Middle. To the right there, obviously, our 6th through 12th students would be in a remote learning environment. And with the exception being for certain specific special ed secondary students whose needs might be such that we would be able to have them attend in person to meet their needs. Some of the rationale for this plan would be to bring our youngest learners back to school daily. There certainly are remote learning challenges for our youngest learners. The K-5 childcare issues that some other plans present difficulties with, we think that this would alleviate some of that. We're hoping to utilize our district facilities in such a way that we can maintain or achieve that social distancing requirement, decreasing the number of students reporting to a building any day, and maintaining that remote learning option for all kids in K through 12. We think that advantages to this plan are that, again, we provide in-person instruction for our youngest learners in kindergarten through 5th grade. This allows us more opportunity to use common areas and achieve that social distancing requirement. We think it's potentially better for K-5 working families. We certainly believe that there would be a social benefit for our youngest learners to return to school again. In 6th through 12th grade, certainly the remote option is the lowest health risk, and so our 6th through 12th grade students would be in that arena with the lowest COVID-19 health risk. And we would like to maintain that opportunity for certain special ed students, specific special education students, to attend in person at the secondary level. Certainly, this plan comes with disadvantages as well. The realignment of 4th and 5th grade students to Patton Middle would be a big change. The relocation over there for students and staff, we recognize that. Could mean some increased travel time for families to get to Patton Middle in 4th and 5th grade. There are costs associated with this plan, certainly, to achieve the 6 feet of physical distancing. It could be as many as 30 additional teachers that we would need to separate children. There's a realignment of staff in our elementary and middle school building. There are certainly teacher concerns, as mentioned earlier, with in-person instruction and the ability to maintain that 6 feet of social distance as they're teaching. For our secondary students, there would be no in-person instruction. So again, the social emotional component and the mental health piece would be difficult to identify and mitigate. There may be some special education students whose needs are difficult to meet in an online environment, and yet they might not meet the threshold for that in-person attendance every day. And of course, for parents, this plan with an online component would continue to require the support of parents, particularly depending on student age and student need. I'd like to hand it over to Dr. Ryder to discuss the special education in this scaffolded plan.
Thank you, Dr. Beaver. In this plan, you'll see some things that are similar to the A, B, C, D, E, F plan, but there are some differences as well. In the scaffolded plan at the elementary level, we do not anticipate too many changes to students' IEPs, as their current IEPs were written for a brick and mortar environment, and that is what the scaffolded plan is describing for our elementary students. However, one of the things that may need to change, particularly for our 4th and 5th grade students, is related to transportation, as they now will be attending a new building, which may mean a longer bus ride, and they may need additional supports in order to do that successfully. At our secondary level, our students will primarily receive IEP supports and services delivery in that remote environment. So we'll be getting those virtually, similar to what we experienced in the spring. So we may need to revise IEPs to note this. I'll be talking a little bit more about that in our remote learning plan very shortly. As Dr. Beaver mentioned, some of our secondary students with disabilities that require a higher level of supports and services may be recommended to attend a brick and mortar program that would be offered either at the middle or the high school. Please note this would only be available under the green or the yellow phase. Now I'm going to describe for you our remote learning plan. This is a plan that looks similar to what we had in the spring, in which all students are attending daily in a virtual online remote environment. Again, schools would be closed in this plan. What is changing, however, is we've made enhancements and improvements. We've learned a lot as a school district from our community, from our teachers, and from our students about what's going well and some areas that we can change. One of the positives, or one of the things that this plan allows, is if we were to move into a red phase under Governor Wolf's phase plan, this program would continue without interruption. Again, it is very similar to what we had in the spring, but it is the next iteration. Under the remote learning plan, students and teachers will have better tools that integrate with our current learning management systems. Right now, we are using Canvas primarily at the secondary level, and Seesaw and Google Classroom primarily at the elementary, and a little of Google Classroom at the middle as well. Our staff have been going through training this entire summer. They're very excited to be learning about how to provide instruction online and use these tools if they are asked to do so. They'll also be able to integrate several of these things into brick and mortar programming as we move forward. And then, as always, we are striving to provide parents and students with clearer expectations about what remote learning means and what they will be expected to do if we were to choose this plan. Just a very brief list of pros and cons. We know there are several more, but just to highlight right now, one of the biggest pros for remote learning is that there is no exposure or transmission risk, as basically all students and staff would remain in their homes. All of our students and teachers would have similar educational experiences because they would be in remote learning. And for teachers, as we've expressed earlier, that are worried about brick and mortar programs for a variety of reasons, they would not have those concerns under this model. Some of the cons or the disadvantages to the remote learning environment is our students that struggle in this environment. We know that, we've experienced that, and we are doing everything that we can to enhance and improve that, but there will still be some that will have difficulty. There are obviously challenges connecting with others and engaging in coursework for students and for staff in this. We will continue to do our best to provide everyone with the tools to make education as in the remote learning work. One of the things that was a challenge in the spring and may continue to be a challenge for parents is the scheduling, if you're in the home environment with your students and balancing your work needs. And then finally, there are specific classes that require hands-on for the majority of the course that remote learning makes a little bit challenging, and that would be things like FCS, art, tech ed, music, and the like. So what does special education look like under remote learning? All students with IEPs would receive their supports and services delivered virtually. So IEP teams will need to reconvene as needed to discuss those needs and make the necessary revisions to the documents. Again, we feel that goals and related services should remain relatively stable, but IEP teams can discuss and make changes as needed. As with the ABCDEF plan, there are specially designed instruction needs that would have to be delineated for which environment they're occurring in. The IEPs that are in effect for all students right now are written for just the brick and mortar environment. And if we were to transition to the remote learning, we would need to identify if new specially designed instruction would be appropriate for that environment, or if some of the specially designed instruction currently outlined was no longer appropriate. And then finally, as we've indicated under many of the other plans, there may be a small number of students with disabilities that would be recommended to attend a regularly scheduled brick and mortar program, but again, only available under a green or a yellow phase. And now back to Mr. Nolan to talk to us in summary of our plans.
Thank you, Dr. Ryder. Mr. Webb, if you would hit on the summary, please. Thank you very much. If you can make that just a little bigger, possibly. To finish our presentation, we have provided a summary of the 4 plans, the key features, pros and cons, and then a little bit about the online options. You may find this helpful to do a quick look at this rather than going through the whole presentation to get the details. This does not have all the information that's on the other slides, but just kind of the key characteristics. And just a couple of quick things. As I mentioned, you are going to get the PDF of this presentation. The links will be live. We are planning on sending out a parent survey on Thursday. We're working on that now. That will be a quick turnaround. We're hoping to have that results back by Tuesday, or we're asking that you give your input by Tuesday of next week. So it is a quick turnaround. We also have a task force that we've formed made up of, as Dr. Sandville mentioned, parents, students, teachers, administrators, and board members and medical experts. We feel that on Friday, when this team meets for most of the day, that they will provide us some excellent input as well. Our hope is that when administration and the board deliberate at the curriculum and instruction committee meeting on the 29th of July at 7 p.m., that there will be a lot of feedback and information that we can provide to that discussion, so that we can move forward with what we feel would be the best plan for our students and staff to keep them safe. And so I believe now I'm turning it back to Ms. Fazio and Mr. Webb, and we'll start answering some questions. Thank you.